Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. It's Haya. Happy Monday for those of you that are joining us live. To my American friends, at least, it's still Monday. I know we've got friends, family, clients, and students all over the world. So wherever you are at whatever time you're listening to this right now, we are so happy to have you with us. So I'm just going to take a quick second while everyone is dialing in, and I'm just going to check our sound and make sure that everything is working while we're getting going here. Okay, it looks like we are up and running. So welcome back. We are doing a ongoing series this week on a survival guide for homeschooling homepreneurs. And like I told you yesterday, this is something that none of us planned on. None of us planned to be in this spot. So we have all been forced to pivot, to dig deep and figure out what is going on. And that is the purpose of this series. You know, most of the clients and students that I work with, I typically work with goal-oriented, highly driven women who are working to custom build a dream life. They know exactly what they want and they are not afraid to go after it. They just need a little bit of help and guidance and support on exactly how to get there. So that's usually where I come in, is really helping them just cut through the noise and help them really identify those few critical strategic areas of focus that are going to catapult them and propel them to that stratosphere of life that they know that they want and they know that they deserve. But here's what I can tell you. It doesn't matter how successful you are or how driven you are. Even the most high-powered, successful women right now, this week, in this world, have been forced to take a step back, take a deep breath, and pivot. And I like to call it playing a game of leapfrog with the universe, because there is no question that the world has thrown everybody a curveball over the last month or so. And we're just now beginning to feel it, like really feel it here in the States. And all of the speculation says that it's going to get worse before it gets better. So we're all looking around, scratching our heads going, okay, what do we do? What do we do? How do we brace ourselves? Should we be scared? Should we be overwhelmed? You know, should we cut back on our spending? Should we, buckle in and prepare for the long haul? Well, I really believe with all my heart that life is only 10% what happens to you, and it's 90% what you do about it. And I believe that every person on this planet, especially in the Western world, every person can turn this opportunity into our finest hour if we choose to do so. So this week, I have dropped everything that I was working on to make sure that women everywhere feel comfortable and confident in how to totally knock this homeschool thing out of the park. Because this is not something that we can just ignore. It's not something that we can just go, yeah, they're home for a little bit, blah, blah, blah. No, there's a lot of reports that are saying that our kids are gonna be home with us for longer than we might really be excited about. So we have gotta figure out how to put a plan in place so that we can thrive through this season. See, yesterday we talked about a survival guide, but I don't want you to just survive through this season of life. I want you to feel confident that you and your family can truly thrive. That's what we want to do, right? So if you haven't had a chance yet to do it, I definitely encourage you to go back and listen to the Facebook Live that we recorded yesterday. It is still saved on my Digging Deeper Facebook page. So go over there and look at the survival guide for homeschooling entrepreneurs. Like I said, whether we like it or not, almost every parent on the planet right now is being forced to become a homeschooler overnight. Okay, a lot of people thought, oh my gosh, homeschooling is so weird. Why would I do that? Who is crazy enough to want to be with their kids all day? Okay, whatever the case may be, we're all in that boat together now. So what we've got to do is we can either let it crush us or we can kill it. We can either let it crush us and bury us and overwhelm us and paralyze us, or we can go, no, I'm going to take a step back, and then I'm going to take a running leap, and I'm going to totally kill this thing. And we are going to thrive. So I'm not going to spend much time. I don't want to spend any time at all actually just going back and reviewing everything that we discussed yesterday. If you didn't have a chance yet to watch it, or if you want to watch it again, because there were a lot of really, really powerful pieces in there that you can, practical tips that you can implement right away. So if you haven't had a chance yet, please go back and do that. Now today, we're going to dig a little deeper. Today, we're going to drill into one specific component of really working your way through a successful homeschool season. And what we're going to look at is how to build a successful schedule. Okay, how to build a daily and weekly schedule so that your entire family can thrive under one roof. That's what we're going to look at. Okay, now here's the thing. Why is a schedule so important? Well, I believe there are two reasons that a schedule is important. First of all, this is something that I like to talk about a lot with my clients and with my students. If you've not heard this before, this is something that you're going to hear from me, oh my gosh, like over and over and over again, okay? First of all, how do you build your dream life? You schedule it. And number two, I think we have all felt this. We've either learned this the hard way or we've seen it working for us. But we all know that if your schedule doesn't work, then nothing works. Like if your schedule doesn't work, then your life doesn't work. So if we know that if you want to build your dream life, well, you've got to schedule, just wishing and hoping doesn't do anybody any good, but you have to actually plan it and you have to create it. And if your schedule isn't working, then your life isn't working. So I actually don't understand how the majority of people overlook this critical component of the importance of a strong schedule, a schedule that works not just for you, but for your entire family. So this is what we're going to go through today, is how to design, implement, and execute a schedule that works for your entire family. So first things first, you've got to take care of you. That's the most critical point, okay? You know that the old saying and the old analogy from the airline industry, right? That, before you can help your neighbor with the breathing mask, you've got to first put on your own mask. Same exact thing here. You cannot teach what you don't know. You can't lead where you don't go. You can't give away what you don't have. So you can't help other people if you're not in the zone. If you're not in your best self, then how can you help other people? If your own well is dry, then how can you give to everybody else around you? Okay, so first thing that you've got to ask yourself is, what do you need to thrive? That's what we want to look at first, okay? Now, other than, I need my kids to go back to school. Okay, well, maybe that's not an option right now. So within the current circumstances, what is it going to take for you to be able to create your best situation? What do you need in order to create the best possible outcome within the current circumstances? Okay, so some things to look at there is well, what's expected from you at work? If, many of you are working moms and many of you are already working inside the home, but also many of you are working outside the home, and now you're transitioning. Everybody is transitioning to being inside the house. So everybody is in massive transition mode right now. So what is expected from you at work? What kind of setup do you need? What kind of schedule do you need? What kind of hours do you need to keep? What kind of sleep do you need? What kind of exercise do you need? What kind of, good, healthy, nutritious food so that you can be energetically on point? What do you need to be able to give to yourself, to care for yourself, to nourish yourself? And y'all, I'm sorry, but honestly, self-love, there's a lot of talk about self-love going around. Okay, a bottle of wine, for breakfast, or a bottle of wine while you're tutoring the kids, those all make for really funny memes, but they're not going to actually set you up to thrive in the long haul. So what do you need for the long haul? Do you need to go to bed early? Do you need to get up early? Do you need to exercise? Do you need to meal plan on the weekends? Like, what do you need as the mama bear in order to be able to thrive? Remember what we talked about yesterday is that you determine the energy in your home, right? So if you're going to be the one that dictates, is everyone happy or not? If you're happy, they're happy. If, they'll say happy mommy, happy baby, happy wife, happy life. Okay. So you've got to figure out what is it going to take for you to be in the zone. So take a little while and really look at that. What do you need? You don't have to answer it right now, but it is something that is definitely worth you carving out a little bit of time to look at. Okay, second thing you want to look at is if you're married at home, or if you have a partner living at home with you, what's going on with your spouse or your partner if you're now both working at home under the same roof? One thing I can tell you, if the foundation is solid, you can weather a lot. But if the partnership is weak, then the whole building can crumble when the wind blows. And for sure, it's been said that communication is the root of every relationship. And the flip side of that is true, that a breakdown in communication is the root of the breakdown in the relationship. So it is extremely healthy between you and your partner to have a meeting of the minds, to have a partners meeting, if you will. In our business, we have a group of partners that run one of our companies, and very often, we'll get together and have things that are called partners meetings. Well, that same exact situation needs to happen within every family unit. If the family is a partnership and the partnership is running the family, well, we need to look at, is the partnership communicating? Is the partnership aligned? Is the partnership on the same page? And just simply managing the expectations goes so far to create success and to create standards for long-term ongoing success. Okay, so first thing you're going to look at is what you need. Second thing you're going to look at is what does your spouse or your partner need. Now, I'm not just talking about what do you need emotionally, okay, but I'm talking about on a very practical, logical, tactical level. What do you need? Do you need your own workspace? Do you need privacy? Do you need quiet? Do you each need, your own separate desk in your own separate room? Do you need a headset? Do you need, what type of functioning technology do you need? Okay, we're talking about, remember, from a scheduling plane to help you set up operationally within your home so that you can thrive through the season, however long it is going to be. Yes, you do need to be on the same page emotionally, but don't stop there. You want to keep digging deeper down to a very practical level. You with me on that? Okay, so if you know what kind of schedule that you need for your life and your business, and you know that your spouse has a certain schedule that he needs for his business, then obviously we're going to want to make sure that these schedules are coordinated. Now, they don't have to be equal. They don't have to be balanced. They just have to be in harmony with one another. Okay, how do you do that? Well, again, just through communication. Maybe one of you is working the late shift and one of you is working the early shift, and there's just no way around it right now with all the transition, and that's okay. So long as you're in communication, so long as you've got a strong partnership and you figured out a way to make, the beautiful music from those harmonious angles, that is totally fine. Okay? So once you know what you need and once you know what your spouse needs, then the third and final piece of the schedule is to take a look at your kids and take a look at what the kids need. Now, here's the thing. I want you to evaluate your kids and put them as the final layer on top. And this almost sounds backward, okay? Because it is totally our natural instinct to deal with them first. But so many challenges arise because mom and dad aren't on the same page, or mom is in crisis mode and therefore barely holding it together. Now remember, when mom is happy, everybody's happy. Happy mommy, happy baby, happy wife, happy life, right? So you, as the energy center of your home, have got to make sure that you're in a good place so that you can direct traffic with everybody else. So now let's talk about your kids' schedules just for a second, okay? Remember what we talked about yesterday. Homeschooling is not school from home. And if you're taking notes, I definitely want you to write this down so that it is staring at you, like put it on a Post-it note on the top of your computer, put it on your desk, put it on your mirror, put it on your refrigerator, wherever you need to put it so that it is a constant reminder in your face. Homeschooling is not the same thing as school from home. They do not need 6 to 8 hours of homeschool per day. Okay, I can tell you that when I first started homeschooling my kid, and for those of you that saw the Facebook Live yesterday, you saw that for many, many years, I went back and forth between homeschool and traditional school before we finally ended up opening our own school, our own private school. So kids that are being schooled and educated from home, they do not need 6 to 8 hours of homeschool per day. Most of that time is required at school for two reasons. Number one, because most schools teach to the middle. So all of the material is dumbed down a bit so that the masses can file through it. And then the second reason that most schools operate for 6 to 8 hours a day, quite honestly, is just because the parents need to keep the kids occupied that long. And I totally get it. I totally understand it. And again, for those of you that were on the Facebook Live yesterday and you got the free resources from that session, you saw actually the sample schedule that I provided you from my own son that is obviously homeschooling now with everybody else, who is now in the 6th grade. And what you may have noticed if you took a look at that schedule, again, it was a part of the free resources that I gave to everybody. So if you didn't get those yet, just go to diggingdeepercoaching.com and you can put your first name and your email address over there, and I will send you all of the resources that I referred to yesterday. And what you will notice over there is that I gave you a sample schedule. Now, the schedules that I gave you are for our family, for what works for us with the phase of life that we're in, with the age that our kids are in, et cetera, et cetera. So you would totally customize it for you. And because we have very strong faith-based values, we incorporate that a lot into our daily schedule. So you would obviously customize all of that based on your values, your priorities, and your beliefs on how you want to raise your children. But if you notice that I said kids do not need 6 to 8 hours of homeschooling per day, you might be surprised to see that I actually have a schedule for my son of starts at 9 a.m. and goes till 4 p.m. So it almost sounds like it's actually contradicting what I just shared with you. So let me explain, okay? His schedule, his daily school schedule at home is from 9 to 4, but it's not because he needs to be in school from 9 to 4. Okay, it's created this way for several reasons. First and foremost, it's to keep him occupied for my sanity. Okay, let's just be honest so that I can get my work done. But if you take a closer look at the schedule, it includes a lot of breaks, it includes a lot of free time, and I gave him a lot of flexibility within the schedule. So he knows that if he finishes any segment early, he can actually have downtime to play. And remember to let your kids have a part in creating the schedule and picking their areas of focus. They will be so much happier to learn that way. I'll just give you one example from our own life, our own situation. My son just turned 12 and he got some birthday money from friends and family. And he decided that he wanted to really learn about woodworking. We had a woodworking class at school. He was really excited about the woodworking class. And so he took some of those passions and interests that were piqued from his time at school, and he wanted to learn more about it now that we're at home. So my husband took him to Home Depot and he invested all of his birthday money into like power tools. Now, I am working on, like getting through my mama fears and my mama shock about, oh my gosh, he's going to lose all of his fingers. So I'm working through that and, we're giving him, safety rules, safety instructions. We're working with him and teaching them, and he's not allowed to use the power tools without supervision at this stage, la, 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 la. okay? But beyond that, it is such an amazing learning experience for him. And to watch him become so excited and so passionate because he got to pick the areas of learning is like a whole different kid, okay? So part of his learning yesterday was actually doing research on YouTube, okay? He was able to sit here and with his headphones so that he wasn't interrupting me and driving me crazy with his videos, but I could kind of look over his shoulder and make sure of what he was watching every now and then. He was able to do research on building equipment, what were the first 5 projects he wanted to take on to really learn about how the tools work, what the tools need, how the equipment works, how to set up his shop. He was like in heaven doing all of this research. Now, of course, there's a ton of math, there is a ton of communication skills, there's a lot of science that is involved in all of these different components with the measuring and the assessments and having to figure out where the tools are going to go. So there's so much critical thinking that is involved in a lot of this, and he's able to just lean into it. And this, that's a very Montessori method. It's called student-driven learning. And you're allowing them to really pursue their passions. And it's so much fun just to watch their world come to life. And this is an amazing opportunity for them to be able to do this. And remember, for the rest of their life, they're going to be learning, teaching to the test, teaching to the middle, learning where to sit, learning when to go to the bathroom, being told what to do, being programmed like a factory worker. That's what traditional schooling does. So embrace this opportunity right now and use it to allow your children to shine in their own personal way with their own unique personality and their own personal passions, okay? There's an old saying, use what you've got. Okay, right now what you've got is a lot of time together and a lot of time one-on-one with your kids. So find out, what are their passions, what are their interests, what do they like, and when you channel those, you're going to find that they actually spend a lot more time on their learning because they're more interested in it, which means they're coming to you less saying, I'm bored, what do I do? Because they're actually intrigued with what they're learning. Make sense? Okay, now once you have your schedule created, now remember what I showed you yesterday. Actually, I'm going to grab it. I'm going to grab the schedule that I want to show you. I gave everybody this template. Remember this template from yesterday? Okay, so this is the blank schedule, and I showed you my template yesterday of how I create. Okay, now if I've got kids that are older than probably about the 3rd grade, I would be having them create this themselves. So they block out their bedtime, their bath time routines, their morning routines, their lunch. It's literally like it becomes a jigsaw puzzle of their own life. And you have no idea the massive amounts of brain development and critical thinking that come through learning to design their day. Y'all, this is a life skill that will go with them for the rest of their life that most of them will never learn anywhere else. Now, I want to take a second. I want to tell you, how did I learn this skill? It's actually shocking. When I went to college, I almost flunked out of my freshman year. And I lost my scholarship. I was put on scholastic probation because I basically just partied my whole entire freshman year of college. I barely went to class. It was like all a blur. I had a blast, that's for sure, but I almost failed out of college. So when I went back for my sophomore year, my 2nd year of college, I was forced to take this class called Succeeding in College. And this was the first time in my life I ever learned about things such as scheduling and proactive planning and organization. Now, my one question from that point forward as a naive 19-year-old is, why did I have to be almost failing before I was taught how to succeed? Why isn't it a required course for all college freshmen to learn how to succeed in college? Hello? So why isn't a required course that we teach all of our children how to succeed in life, how to design their day, how to design and create their own schedules? This is a massive, massive life skill that you are providing to your children right here. You see this? Okay. So again, if they are above a third grade or so, I would have them designing their own schedule. I would probably sit with them once a week, help them design it, help them tweak it, manipulate, move things around. And then what you want to do, remember, you're Mama Bear, okay? So what Mama Bear is going to do is going to coordinate all the schedules and make sure they work together. So I have a few tips for you on how to do that, okay? Now, you know the old analogy on the rocks and the sand and the water, and the time management analogy. So there was a teacher that was helping his high school kids understand the concept of prioritization. And so he gave them a glass jar, and then he gave them rocks, sand, and water, and told them all to make it fit into the jar. So they tried every which way, couldn't figure out what to do, and then he showed them the lesson. First, you put in the big rocks, and then you put in the sand because they work their way all around the rocks. And then finally you pour in the water on top, and it leaves no space left at all. And the moral of the story is prioritization. When you put the big things in first, the smaller things always find a way to work around. So when you're looking at your schedule, remember I told you put your things in first. Now you may have, your husband has a schedule, you have a schedule, and your kids have a schedule, and that's okay. If you are a massive chart maker and you just love having a list and a chart, you can even take, you can create a spreadsheet that shows, like everybody in the family across the top, and it shows the hours down the bottom. And it shows where you are at 8 a.m., where you are at 9 a.m., what you're doing at 10 a.m., what you're doing at 11 a.m. Now, again, that's only for my massive, detail-oriented critical thinkers. If I'm going to show that to everybody, most of your head's going to explode and you're going to totally shut down. But if you are a very detailed person, you can definitely do that. Okay? Now, for the rest of us, what I recommend is just look at the schedules on the whole. And again, mom, make sure that you have the major priorities, the major chunks of your day in here. And once you have like your major priorities identified of what you want to create, then here are a few tips to remember. So for example, maybe I know that I want to have time, I need to sleep 6, 7, 8 hours a day, whatever yours is, whether you're going to be having a certain amount of time for exercise or your meditations or your quiet time or whatever it is, figure out how much time you need for those things, okay? And then once you've got that mapped out, then you're gonna also look at the same thing for your kids and make sure that you've got enough time in there to make all of those things work together. You're working together in harmony. Okay, now here are a few tips to remember once you have your initial draft. Okay, first of all, children thrive in routine. Yes, there is no question about that. Okay, but you've got to be flexible within that routine, not a slave driver and not a taskmaster. Okay, it's a little thing that we call planned spontaneity. So once I have my draft, then I can be flexible in it as needed. Remember what I told you yesterday, even though I plan out every single week, every single day, and every single hour, I have yet to ever have 2 weeks look alike, and I have yet to ever have a perfect week or a perfect day, okay? But you always end up better if you start with a plan than if you start without a plan, okay? Next thing is morning and evening routines are absolutely critical for consistency. Okay, so morning and evening routines are critical for consistency. Now, again, if your kids know what is expected of them, and if you can get them into a routine in the morning and they get into a routine in the evening, then these things are called systems. What is a system? It means that it works almost on autopilot. It works on automatic. Okay, so if everybody knows their morning routine and everybody knows their evening routine, then the house starts to get into a rhythm. The house starts to get into a flow, as opposed to just being like completely chaotic with no plan and no order every day. Now, it does require a period of adjustment. Okay, right now it's a major transition week. Okay, last week everybody got the shock that they're at home. This week, the news is pretty much settling in that we're all going to be here for a while, which means we absolutely must stop and put together a new plan for this season of life. So give yourself the grace, give yourself permission, be patient with the process as you put this new plan in place, and understand that every day that you go through it, you're going to tweak it a little bit more, tweak it a little bit more, tweak it a little bit more, and that rhythm is going to become more natural. It's like learning how to brush your teeth, with your opposite hand. The first time, like if you're a right-handed person and you start brushing your teeth with your left hand, it feels so weird. Okay, but the more you do it, the more comfortable it becomes. Same thing here with your schedule and your routines. The more you do it, the more comfortable it will become. And remember what I told you yesterday. Don't say, oh, this thing didn't work for me. Y'all, it's a piece of paper. It's never going to work for you. You've got to make it work by really sinking in, digging into it, and doing it again and again and again. Now, the other thing that is amazing about the ability to work from home is you can relax from the rigidity of an external routine. Normally it's like, hurry, get into the car, hurry, get to school, hurry, get home, hurry, get in the shower, hurry, get to dinner, hurry, get to bed. And you're just always rushing to do the next thing. Now, y'all, finally, we can all take a deep breath. We can let our kids move a bit more slowly. We can let them relax. They can finally get caught up on the sleep that they need. And if you Google how much sleep children need, you will be shocked at how much our children are lacking the amount of sleep that they should actually be getting right now. So you finally have a chance that your children can have that sleep and that much needed rest and nourishment and nutrition that is so important. And let them go play outside. Let them get some sun. If you don't have a backyard where the kids can play, or a neighborhood where you feel safe, carve out some time either in the morning or in the night, and let that be a part of your exercise routine where you get out and you exercise with them, and they're getting some vitamin D, you're getting some sun, and you're all getting some fresh air, so that you're not just getting cabin fever from being stuck under the roof all day. Okay, now some very quick tips from a seasoned pro. Like I told you, I have had my son at homeschool. I have had him working at home with a tutor. I have had him working at home online. I have had him working at home where I'm the teacher. I have had him in traditional school. I have had him in creative alternative learning types of school. And I have done all of it while working from home. So there is one thing that I can definitely share with you from confidence, and it is how to navigate homeschooling while you yourself work from home. We are all, whether or not you ever want to be an entrepreneur, we are all now homepreneurs, okay? So here are just a few tips from a seasoned pro. It will make or break your sanity to create the plan and schedule the night before. I don't care how exhausted you are. Take an extra half hour after the kids are in bed, before your head hits the pillow, and put together the detailed plan for the following day. Now, let me give you an example, okay? My schedule might say that, my son is doing, academics from 1 to 4, let's say in the afternoon, and it's just blocked out. Maybe it says science, or it says academics, or it says, I have on his schedule, for example, it says domestic skills. So that might mean that he's learning how to mop or sweep or sew or pull the weeds in the backyard or clean up after himself or scrub a toilet or set the table or answer the door, or, whatever it is that I feel like he is lacking in, whether it's work ethic or character development. I may have a subject like generically blocked out for that amount of time, but I may not have all the details like really dialed in of exactly what I want him to cover in that point, in that area. And I don't do that until the night before, because it allows me to be very relevant, very on point, like very sensitive to everything that's happening in the house with the time. And so, for example, if I noticed today that he was very slow or very behind in something I wanted him to focus on, then tonight, when I am making my plan for tomorrow, I can just extend that into tomorrow. Or if I noticed that there was a massive mess left behind from something he was working on today, then I can carve out time that we go back and we make up for that in the schedule for tomorrow. So I make sure that the night before I get very clear on what everyone is doing the next day. Make sense? And I can tell you I have learned the hard way, y'all. When I wait for the next day, like for example, let's say today is Monday. If I am up on Monday morning and I'm trying to get caught up on everything from the weekend, I'm getting caught up on clients or students or, something with my principals or, different things that are happening with all the different balls that we have juggling in the air. And then at the same time, my kid is looking at me going, oh, what am I supposed to do today, mommy? What am I learning today? My head's going to explode. Okay? For my own sanity, I've got to have a plan for him in place. Otherwise, I end up putting him in front of a screen just to be the babysitter and just to keep him occupied. And then I'm like eating mom guilt all day because I didn't take the time to put together a plan. Okay. Every now and then, even the best laid plans, they go out the door, and that's okay. If you every now and then you have to punt and kick because that, just all your plans went out the window, that's okay. But we want to build our plan on the rule, not on the exception, right? You don't want every day to be chaotic. You don't want every day to be without a plan. You don't want every day to be lack of organization. You don't want every day for your kid to be, just on screen time for 8 hours because you need to get stuff done. If you can take that half an hour to an hour every evening and plan in advance, your entire family will thrive. And isn't that what you want? And I can see we've got some friends from Australia joining us. Hey, Beck, so good to have you with us. And we've got some friends on the West Coast joining us. I see Natalie from Australia. We've got some friends from California just chiming in, and Colorado. So good to have all of you with us. We are literally taking women from around the globe and putting a plan in place so that our entire family can thrive. Now, a couple more quick tips, a quick word to the wise from just my own lessons, having learned these things the hard way, okay? Create a buffer. Now, I told you at night, you're going to stop and you're going to put everybody's plan together for the next day, okay? Right now, this is like they've already created their schedule draft. Okay, so at night, you're fine tuning it. You're putting the detail in place, okay? You're whittling it down to another layer. But the next morning, even though I've done that at night, the next morning when I wake up, I create a buffer in my schedule. It's no more than half an hour. Usually a half an hour I find is perfect. I use a half hour where I help the whole family get organized before the day begins, okay? So now, when I don't do this, I always regret it. So please take my advice on this one, okay? Again, I always regret it if I don't do this. But before the day begins, I take a half hour and I review the learning itinerary. Whatever it is that they need to know, whatever they need to access, whatever they're going to be focused on, whatever tools and resources they need to be able to do their work, I make sure they have it and they know what that is before we start. So I usually do that with my son from 8:30 to 9. So he gets up at 8 and he has half an hour to relax, grab breakfast, whatever happens. And then from 8:30 to 9, even if he's like, Mother, I know what I'm doing, I make him go through it anyway, because it never fails. If I do not do this, as soon as I am on a conference call or doing a video coaching session or whatever else I need to do, he's going, Mommy, what about this? What about blah, 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 blah. Okay? So I promise you, for the sake of your own sanity, use that half hour buffer and make sure that everyone is organized for the day. Now, they still may have questions throughout the day, and of course they will, and that is perfectly okay. So you want to put little breaks, like little increments into your day that you can quickly just go check on them. So if you've got multiple kids at home, maybe they're all doing learning in a different room. I have found that what works for me is I plan, if I'm blocking out my day like at an hour's time, like by hourly chunks, Okay, depending on how old your children are and how much they can focus on their own, you may need to work for 45 minutes and then take 15 minutes to check on them, 15 minutes to refocus them, and then you come back and work for another 45 minutes. So out of every hour block, you work for 45 minutes and help them refocus for 15 minutes, or answer their questions, or help them troubleshoot, or just connect with them and, like run some laps in the backyard, whatever the case may be. Now, if your kids have a little bit of a longer attention span, maybe they can go for an hour and a half and then you have 15 minutes. But you'll be able to know that based on you checking with your kids and you being aware of their energy and their attention span and their ability to focus on their own. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so planning it at a weekly level all together as a family, then planning it every night, you by yourself, making sure that you know what's going on with the entire family for the next day, and then taking that half-hour buffer every morning. Those 3 checkpoints can totally make or break your success as a homeschooling homepreneur. Now, remember, I said this like 12 times. I'm going to say it at least one more. Homeschooling is not the same thing as school from home. So you do not have to do a block of math, a block of science, a block of history, a block of language arts. Okay, even at our school, our physical school, where we call it integrated learning, because that's real life. When you have a real job out in the real world, or you're running your own business, all of it runs together. So if they're baking, okay, if they're making a cake, let's say, well, they're having to do critical thinking, they're having to do math with the measurements, they're having to, communicate and read and following instructions, and that's language arts. There's so many things all boiled into one. So you could do that exact same thing, and maybe you want to have your kids. My mom sent me a great example. She's got 2 grandkids home with her in Texas right now. So they set up an Olympics from home. And so they were using paper cups and things to build different games and things inside the house, and they were running races. And you can do that exact same thing with your kids. You can say, okay, you're going to build a bowling alley, and you can give them, they've got to set up the bumper, with the paper cups, and they've got, like sponge balls or whatever you want to use. There is so much critical thinking. There is so much brain development that is happening there. There is so much problem solving and communication. And guess what it does? It makes learning fun. And if we can build into our kids a love of learning, then that is a belief that they will take with them for their entire life. Yeah? Okay. Last but not least, I recommend, and I just invite you to maybe take 1 hour per day where you learn with them. Okay, now this is not like where you're sitting beside them and you're doing math problems with them where both of you are feeling tortured. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking a lesson or a topic or a subject that you're both interested in and doing something together. Okay, now let's say if you've got, a spouse or a partner at home, maybe you take an hour and they take an hour, and then that's 2 hours combined that the kids have a learning partner or learning support. So maybe one of you, takes baking and one of you takes gardening. And if you live inside or it's in bad weather or you're in an apartment, there are so many awesome YouTube videos on how to do like hanging gardens or floating gardens or things that you can do indoors. And then you've got the oxygen coming into the house, and you've got so many benefits of live plants coming into the house, and it's something that it's hands-on and it's grounding work that you can do by putting your hands into the soil. So if you just get a little bit creative, I'll tell you tomorrow, my son and I, we're going to be out pulling weeds. We've got a goat. Many of you know that we have goats. He got goats last year for his birthday. And so we have like a goat garden. And while the yard guys come and mow everything else, they leave the garden kind of wild. And so the weeds have just like exploded in the last few weeks that we've had with all the rain. We never have rain in Phoenix, but we've had rain the last few weeks. So my son and I are going to go out there tomorrow and we're going to tackle some of that weed area. Yes, I could call the yard guys to come out there and do that. Yes, it would make my life much easier, but my son really needs the work ethic of knowing how to do that. So he and I are going to tackle part of that together. So while my husband is working with my son an hour a day on the woodworking stuff, I'm going to work with him on pulling the weeds. And he's now old enough where he can do baking by himself. And his real test is learning to clean up after himself right now. So again, you can totally customize it based on your kids' ages, where you are in the world, their personalities, their passions, and your interests. And then just to kind of fold in one other idea that I had shared with you yesterday, it is a fantastic opportunity to create a learning co-op. So if you've got friends or family members that also have kids that are, of somewhat the same ages, they do not have to be the same age at all, but if they're like in the same age range, then you can do a learning co-op. So maybe they're going to be on FaceTime, or you're going to put a Zoom group together or something, and you're going to split up different topics by different parents. So maybe one parent will handle language arts. Maybe one parent will handle science projects. One parent will handle math. One parent will handle gardening. One parent will handle story time. One parent will handle snack time. And you can literally put the snack in front of them, get all the kids on a Zoom call, and they can have group snack together. Or they can have group Lego building together. And you can this way break it up among parents. So one parent is kind of controlling the group via Zoom. Kids love screen time. They love feeling like mature and sophisticated, like their parents on a conference call. And so you can set these things up, and it allows you to pool the forces together, and it allows you just to have a little bit more time in your schedule for sanity and productivity. So there you have it. I can promise you that if you're going to take some time to dig deep and work into these ideas. Now, everything that we are talking about here, y'all, are skills. It's not personality trait. It's not a gift that you're born with. These are skills that can be taught, which means they can be learned. Anyone can develop the skills to become a successful homeschooling homepreneur, which means that you are working from home while you are schooling from home. We are all being given this test right now. So whether or not we just want to survive or whether we want to totally thrive is up to us. Okay? Now, it's not going to feel natural the first time you do it. You're going to have to lean into it. And so that's why I'm saying giving yourself a little bit of grace, giving yourself a little bit of patience, this week and next week, as you really wrestle through it, as you really sink your teeth into it and get to know it and practice it and troubleshoot. And I am more than happy to answer any questions that you have and help you troubleshoot. In fact, tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel, I'm going to do another Facebook Live, and the topic tomorrow is how to troubleshoot through tension. Okay, so how to troubleshoot whenever you're getting to a point where you're like, oh, this is not working for me, or you're feeling the same point of frustration over and over and over again, how to work through those. So that's what we're going to focus on tomorrow's survival guide session of homeschooling for homepreneurs, is how to troubleshoot through tension. I hope this has been helpful for you. If it has been helpful for you in any way, please comment here. Please give it a like, share it with your other friends and family that may also be in the same boat. And remember, if you'd like the free resources that I'm sharing right now, just go to diggingdeepercoaching.com, diggingdeepercoaching.com, put your first name and email, and I will send you all of the free resources that I was referring to yesterday and today. I love you guys. Have an awesome day. Remember, you can turn this season of frenetic frenzy into your finest hour, because every human has a superhuman waiting inside. I know you can do it. I believe in you with all my heart. Love you guys. Bye for now.